right, guys, what's going on? I am the one, the only, the WOOKIE, joined here once again by Mr. JR. What's going on, JR?
Nothing much. Hello, Keyforge community.
And the man that just can't keep the excitement to one page, Dr. Sheep Dan. What's up, Dan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, he's just oozing with enthusiasm. Can you taste it? It's in the air. I don't know, but got some news for you guys today. A bunch of stuff kind of to go over. We do want to go over Shadow World, kind of a little bit, and some of the information that was held there. We're going to get some quick housekeeping things out of the way. The Crucible Cast was up on this Saturday. Many of us were playing in Shadow Worlds while that was actually launched, but we did get a little bit of information from Josh Massey. Everything that is at where it's at right now will stick until those dates, and I'm sure obviously at that point they'll reevaluate. Mass Mutation will launch in China and Taiwan first at the end of this month, and then in July the rest of the world will get it. So, Dan, how do I get my Chinese or Taiwanese decks?
I thought you were going to order them for us.
Maybe. Do you think I can?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. I figured you had already figured out a way to break into the China and Taiwan market to start buying Mass Mutation, but
well, I think we should reach out to all of our Chinese and Taiwanese players who are Keyforge players and just reach out. That would be a good connection. We need to see some of those decks.
You know, D-Champ, I think, is from Taiwan.
It's going to be our...
He'll be our...
shady importer?
He'll be our shady importer.
D-Champ, our new target?
I was going to check with my retail store because I know they always get those foreign language magic boxes. So,
yeah, I don't know. That's just what Massey said. That in China and Taiwan are going to get it first because their curves are supposedly a much further progression than the United States. And then obviously the rest of the world gets it at the end of July. Also, we're supposedly supposed to be following Twitter and Facebook ever so closely for new ways to play. Now, I first and foremost thought maybe this was their new online launch. Dan, what are your thoughts? You had some thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm not that optimistic. I think it just means they're going to give official names to like what we call short adaptive or auction or those kinds of formats that we've created at home, and they're just going to make them official.
Because he did kind of preface it with the I've been playing over Discord and Skype and things like that. And it's like, we've got some new ways to play. So you're sticking with, we're going to be let down.
Well, we like consistency, right? So let's see FFG stay consistent and disappoint us again.
Fair enough. So that's kind of the house cleaning out of the way. Boys, we did a tournament this weekend. Now, I'm very proud of all of us, and the only reason I say that is a lot of people don't understand that we as a team, and I say team kind of, I don't want to say loosely, but we formed the team on 4/28/2020. Shadow World was on the 2nd. So literally we had, 3 or 4 days to really kind of get our decks down and figure out what in the world we were doing.
Yeah, and we had to come up with an official team name, and that took more time than anything.
That took more time than picking decks, I think. But we somehow squeaked into the top 16. I'm not 100% sure how we did that, but we did do that. And big thank you. I want to go over some fun stats here from Children of the Tentacle. That team over there, I'm not sure. I don't want to say him because I don't know who's all a part of the team. Kind of put in the work, did some stats, and we kind of looked at where our SAS ranges from anywhere. And these, I believe, are just top 16 results, right?
Correct.
Okay. So your decks really range anywhere from 57 to 87 in SAS score.
That is across all 3 formats. The smallest adaptive is the 57. So is that, no, that's not your, is that your deck, Dan? No, I wasn't adaptive. I'm Triad.
Oh, you're Triad. Yeah. That's right.
My adaptive deck, which I played, was actually the second lowest deck there, and that was the 60 SAS deck.
I find it funny that there's this huge gap. So it's like 57 and then 60 and then 66, 68, and then we start going by ones when we get into the 70s.
Yeah, I think that fact actually really interested me to be able to see the difference in the range. I guess for adaptive, I was expecting a little bit more of a push on the lower side, and it was clear that everyone with some very consistent higher SAS decks.
Didn't you only go to chain bidding twice, or was it 3 times?
I actually only went to chain bidding. I will double check. I believe it was twice.
I think it was twice.
And out of the twice,
once it was for your deck.
Once it was for my deck, correct. My deck actually went ahead out of the 6 games. It only lost. It went 0-2. Well, it basically lost both times, one match. And that was against Team SAS. I got to pull it up. That was game 4.
Was that who was that?
Yeah,
I forget who he was playing against.
That was who won.
Just the guy playing.
Yeah, okay. Because I played Dunkuro during that. So overall, I mean, Dan, what was your results for the weekend? I know you did the best out of all 3 of us.
No, I did not.
You didn't?
Yeah,
I thought you did.
I went across the 6 games. I was 4-2 for matches, and I went 8-5 in my games.
I got to think about what. Oh no, I know exactly what I did. So, JR, well, how did you fare?
Day number 1, I went 2-1, and day number 2, I went 3-0. I actually went 5-1 out of the individual matches that was there. I only got swept once, and that was in game number 3 on day 1. And I'm still a little ticked. There was definitely some tilt that was there. There was a little bit of an issue with something how it was reported. And I fought in with Grok, not seeing any damage. So that's on me, a little bit of drain, but I didn't see any damage, and I fought in with Grok, and then all of a sudden it's like it showed that the opponent won, and I'm like, what do you mean you won? So outside of that, I thought it was very, very interesting. My deck at that 60 SAS went ahead and consistently performed. The only deck that it had real issues with was a 76 SAS Worlds Collide deck, and it had both Double Hawk and Universal Recycling Bin, which posed some issues.
Yeah, and I only went. I was the best of 3. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I did. I 2-0'd, then I 0-2'd, then I 1-2'd. I can't remember what the third game was. Did I win my third game? Ugh, I don't remember now. I know my record at the end of the day was even. I remember that. So I didn't help the team at all. So thank you for backpacking me.
Oh, we went 2-1 that day, so I think you lost your third game.
I think I lost my third game. My second game was... Oh, no, I remember my second game. My second game, I got stuck between rock and hard spot with a data forge. That I got 0-2'd on. And then to round out the day, I got to play Sasha, which, for those of you who do follow a little bit of competitive Keyforge, it is a double Martian Generosity, Key Abduction, Grump Buggy, double Ganger Knot deck. It's nuts. But, yeah, I ended up finishing out the day with a couple of losses on the day. But then my day 2 went better. I got to get dunked on by Dunkuro. Although, Woman did take a W. It didn't get shut out, so it did win. So, Woman's now a $2,000 deck, right, Dan?
That's right.
That's right. Okay, and then
it can beat Pink Fraud.
It can beat Pink Fraud, and then I lost my middle match, and then I ended up. If you guys were watching the stream, we ended up winning the final match, which is what we needed to do for the W, to go 4-2 and get into that top 16. So very interesting. Looking at the charts of the set breakdowns, Archon Adaptive has the highest amount of AOA in it, which is kind of funny because if you look at Archon Adaptive as far as the SAS spread out, it's also some of the lowest stuff that's out there. What is making AOA so strong in Archon Adaptive?
My opinion is you try to pick adaptive decks because they're difficult for your opponent to play. And the set with the most goofy, weird interactions is probably AOA, because the goofy weird interactions that seem to exist in Worlds Collide are, I guess they're not as goofy. The combos in Worlds Collide are a little simpler to understand, and they're super powerful, like the Cincy combos and the Voltron decks. Like, that's the kind of combos that are in Worlds Collide, and they're not too complex to really figure out how they go. Where some of these World or AOA decks, they're really weird.
I would definitely argue the AOA Amber Control is the reason why we're seeing that in Adaptive. Amber Control does not come off as a straight steal for the most part. You can see the Ronnies, but that's not what I saw for the most part in Adaptive. It was weird little plays with very small Amber Control. So how you're going to control that Amber is extremely important. And I think AOA has some nice finesse pieces where you have to look and kind of prioritize how you're going to control Amber, because it's limited. It's very limited in that set.
That's interesting. But moving on to Triad, both kind of split down the middle, 40% and 42% for Coda and Worlds Collide, and then 19%, which I think are all of Dan's decks, 19% AOA, which, Dan, are you running 2 or 3 AOA decks? 2?
2 AOA.
2 AOA decks. So, yeah, that 19% is all Dan. I kid. I'm not, but...
The team we're playing first on Saturday, they're 4 out of 5 AOA decks.
I know I'm playing an AOA deck.
No, you are not.
I'm playing against
you're playing
AOA
against
decks.
Yes. Yeah. Right, so they are 4 out of 5 AOA decks, and they are the first place team.
Yeah,
but I think that's, Dan, has been your calling card for many, many, many times when we have talked. It's like AOA has the bottom piece, but they have the ability just to be at the top. But you have to have such an elite deck, and that's what we're seeing. Is there's the right combination. It can be AOA.
Have you looked at these top tier AOA decks? They don't fit into the boxes that top tier Coda and top tier World Collide. Like, when you look at top tier World Collide, like, SAS is so good at picking out really good Worlds Collide deck and really good Coda decks, because there is very, at least in my opinion,
defined characteristics.
There's defined, like meta. There are, these make very good decks, where these weird decks in AOA that are really good, it doesn't catch. Like at Albany, the guy was playing a deck, and what made it so good was that it had double Untamed Ambassadors, and just the way that he could use them to fire through his deck so fast made it win tons of game. I think one of my games I got to play this weekend, the guy has a big Project ZYX pile, and he can binate Rupture, then uses Project to play his TMTP on the same turn. Like, in these kinds of things, they take a little work to set up, and they're a little bit weirder and harder to find. So SAS doesn't respect them, because it's, SAS is built off tools that says these kinds of cards work together. It doesn't find 3 and 4 card combos in its native programming, right? So it's, that's why I think AOA gets underrated. But the good AOA stuff, it takes more thought to get through, but can be really good.
I think the big thing is 3 and 4 card combos, we just know in CCGs in general, have the tendency, they either fire or they don't, right? There's no in between. It's no like, well, it kind of fired and it kind of worked and I can struggle my way through it. But if you get into those, now it's 4 and 5 cards, it's tough to get all those in the same hand unless you've got some extenuating circumstances outside of that, which are allowing you to do as such. So,
well, and that's another place where AOA becomes one of the strongest sets. Is it has, I think, even better than Coda in general, abilities to draw an archive. Right? Its abilities to
AOA
have extra draw an archive.
AOA was definitely much better at archiving than Coda. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
That really improves your ability to trigger multi-card combos.
Sure.
To the point where, we're seeing weird, good AOA decks. They're still not as consistent as even something like Woman, who is just like a straightforward, I'm just going to steal all your Amber and disrupt you enough that you can't win. They're not as consistent necessarily as that, but in a format like this where you can afford to lose a game with the deck and your teammates can pick you up, I think you see why AOA's coming to the top, because it has such high highs.
But I think we want to add one more piece. You're talking about the archive ability. You're also talking with AOA that you need to know some of the intricacies of that deck. And so we see a much higher occurrence in the adaptive format because AOA requires that you understand that deck. And it is tricky to know all three sets, to know all the cards when you're looking at a deck for roughly 2 minutes, and to pull out what do you need to be playing when it's going to come to your turn. But if I've had multiple repetitions with that AOA deck and I know the fine details of where I want to play and why I want to play it, when I compare that to someone who doesn't have that experience, there's a huge advantage for adaptive to be able to say, this is the deck I'm taking because I know what cards to play and when to play and how to play it because of that experience.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and we're kind of watching, and I don't know if we want to call it an evolution or not, but this kind of different. It's different, right? That's all I'm going to say right now. It's different. But let's move into Archon Solo, which was dominated by Coda. 63% Coda, 13% AOA, and 25% Worlds Collide. Coda still showing its dominance as it has in a straight up Archon format. But the one thing I did want to get into, and I don't know if you guys agree, is the best of 3 format has shown me some interesting things, to where we face this game, and in a normal tournament, a best of 1 tournament, woman actually could have had the chance to eliminate something like Pink Fraud. But then you take it, well, it's best of 3. Well, that changes it because woman couldn't do it again. So does it eliminate those high rolls and those low rolls? Because if you look at my first game, you can go back and watch it on stream. It should still be there. My very last game, I was going up against an 84 SAS Worlds Collide deck, and that deck dunked on me game 1. Game 2 and 3 were very, very different. Game 3 was probably the most stressful because we had a very lengthy conversation on whether to hysteria or not. In the end, we did, which ended up winning us the game, but is best of 3 the way to go for competitive Keyforge from here on out?
I don't like it.
Is it just too long for you?
I think best of 3 promotes. When people say Keyforge is, that you can pay to win, best of 3, in my opinion, promotes that because it takes out goofy decks that can win sometimes, but don't win all the time from ever even having a chance. Or it significantly reduces their chance, which just pushes, I guess it just pushes the meta to a much more flat, consistent meta. And I'm not a fan of that because, I happen to be lucky that I own a deck that I think is actually consistent enough to play in that kind of solo meta. And it's not woman. That deck is good, but as you can see, it has highs and lows. And when it wins, it dominates, and then sometimes it just doesn't go anywhere and you lose. And if it's best of 3, its swinginess, because it doesn't have any draw, can cause it problems.
It really rears its head. I felt it all weekend. And I'm really actually thankful we split that weekend over 2 days, because I'll tell you what, each weekend I play, or each day I played 7 games. 3, 4, 5, 7 games. Each one of my games, a couple of my games went to, full 3. And I'm pretty burnt at the end of that. And I'm just like, man, I couldn't imagine going to Worlds and doing all 6 rounds, which is a bare minimum of 12 games. That's the minimum. And doing it all in one day. By the end of the day, I would just be like mumbling to myself in a corner, pulling my hair out. I think that'd have been just too much.
I definitely think that going ahead and having it split across 2 days was helpful. It also worked in this format. Thank you, Kip, and the community. We had people from all around the world coming in, so that was helpful. But yeah, it would have been really interesting to have us all sitting down for one solid day for 6 rounds with a bare minimum of 12 games being played. And, upwards of being able to play 18, I will tell you, I could feel the fatigue. Being in any of our tournaments, the larger Vault Tours, yes, you can feel that pull near the end. But this was some very, very high intense thinking with some great players from around the world. So I appreciate that it was split into 2 days.
Now, the biggest thing I want to talk about and kind of and mosey on into, Dan, you kind of talked about it when we talk about best of 3, and you say it kind of gets rid of those pay-to-win strategies.
I say it promotes it.
Or I'm sorry, promotes the pay-to-win strategies. I find that interesting because, as again we see, we do see a very wide spectrum of decks across the board. But if you look at just Archon solo, the lowest rated deck is a 70. The highest rated deck, I believe, is an 86. I think I'm looking at that right. So there's 170 and 186. Now, I sit right in the middle at women's, a 75? Or is it a 74?
75 at that time.
75. So I'm I got the third worst. I have the third worst deck. Or lowest SAS score. And I can tell you, when you go up, and I think Pink Fraud is what? Is that an 85? I know
definitely in the 80s.
I think Sasha's an 85 too. You can definitely feel that strain of being the underdog the entire time you play. So when we look at these SAS scores, is there not enough middle ground in these decks? Is the deck really carrying the player, or is the player making the deck?
Their player skill is very real. It's kind of fun to look around using Crucible Tracker, and you can see people practicing with your decks.
Yeah.
Because you know what your matches are next week, so you can practice with your opponent's decks. And if you look at their things, you can see them making mistakes with your deck. So, and it's the same thing in Adaptive. You hand over your deck and you just watch them play cards wrong. You see them do something, you just go, oh, thank you for that, because they've done something significantly wrong. So the player skill is a very real thing, but best 2 out of 3 with everybody knowing their decks in solo, I think the deck carries.
You think the deck carries? So you're saying in a triad scenario, player skill very much comes into effect.
I think player skill is bigger in triad, absolutely.
I think that it is 100% variant dependent. And I'm going to say that because I think that for Archon solo, that oftentimes when you're at that top tier, sure, there is going to be some minute differences depending on the players playing. But most of our top players have experience with their decks. And so just having a better card draw is going to help. Now, it is also a matter of looking at what the meta is and being able to say, this is a good matchup for me most of the time. I think that has to be taken into consideration, and that's a player skill piece. But there are some seriously good decks, and that's part of the reason that it scares me with Archon solo, that I just don't have any personal decks that I feel confident taking in. They can't perform consistently, and seeing a lot of these decks that are high SAS scores or high card draw, when they're looking at cards that are just consistently good, I have dead cards, and I look at it as, well, that's very much a pay-to-play piece for me. And it's a little bit frustrating, I'll say that. But that's also why maybe I lean towards that adaptive, where I see more average decks can go ahead and compete.
Yeah, how do you feel about that Untamed in the Woman?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
I feel it's fine. It's
a bunch of dead cards.
It's not the greatest in the world, but when we first started playing, you told me sometimes you just gotta take a turn and play and get rid of the Untamed and make sure it go bye-bye. I'll tell you, Ink of the Spider did some work throughout those 2 days, stunning down a creature or two that I needed to just not be there for a turn. You know what I mean? Like, I just need him not to do something for a turn or two, and I'll be okay. The bears are kind of nice, I guess I'd say, because, you know, they can kind of take care of some of those bigger power creatures that I did come into contact with. And Troop Call is kind of a dead card, a little bit, I'm not going to lie to you. But like Niffle Apes, just being, you know, especially with Worlds Collide, people wanting to put stuff around Taunt, and you're just like, I have Niffle Ape. Niffle Ape don't care whether you have Taunt or not. He just come in elusive too, just coming through and getting some of those creatures that I need gone. The only problem is it's slow. I got to play them, and then I got to be able to do something with them. So I think the Untamed in there is okay. I'm not going to say it's the best Untamed I've ever played.
So I'm going to take this slightly off. Would you guys rather have 5 or 6 dead cards that are split up between all 3 houses, so you're taking roughly 2 in each, or would you rather have it all in one house?
That is 100% dependent on the rest of the deck, of course. But in general, I'm going to say spread out, because that's where, and like I was telling you with the woman, sometimes you play a bad 2 or 3 card on tame turn, because if you let your hand build up to 4 or 5 or God forbid 6 bad cards all in the same house, and you're behind because they came together late,
you've
lost the game because you can't turn them.
And that happened to me a couple times where I got into Untamed and there was nothing I could do, so I just had to call it to get rid of it at that point in time. It was what it was. What do I do at that point? You know, I kind of got to take my lumps and deal with it as is. It sucks.
I asked that question because I think that's what's really unique about Keyforge. Keyforge is a set number of cards that you cannot go ahead and change. Your deck is what it is. And so you got to play with the highs, you got to play with the lows. But I think it's a really interesting proposition of, would I rather take those cards and split them up, or would I rather have them in one house and just try and deal with the other 2 houses and then get rid of it at kind of an off time?
Well, if you give me Taus and Eddies, I'm going to say put it all in one house, because that's what's going in the archive.
And
Absolutely.
That's what we're seeing. Then that's what we're seeing with some of these top tier decks, is they have the ability to chunk those dead cards away.
Right. And if you guys look at the graph again, big thank you to Children of the Tentacle for the house breakdown. Logos is number 1 with 53 decks having Logos in them.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say...
I think it's 53% of decks.
Yeah.
Is it 53% of decks? So over half the decks have Logos in them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, either way, I mean, if we kind of look at these stats, Brad Andres' favorite house was Logos. And if you look at the new set, Logos isn't getting any worse in the new set. Go ahead, Dan.
Logos is draw, and draw is just...
Draw is win.
Draw is win, because that fixes dead cards, right? Because Logos is draw and archive, so it fixes dead cards, it builds ridiculous combo turns. It is so good.
Well, but you got to remember that unlike other card games where you can only play one at a time, I can play my whole set of Logos out. So by being able to draw is
not
huge.
only that, you can play your whole Logos out, and with some of the Logos cards plus some more that aren't in Logos, with things like Phase Shift and Helper Bot and Quant and some of these other things. There's times where you're dumping your whole hand.
And I also think that this little stat with the houses was really interesting to see Star Alliance and Saurian already bumping up above Brobnar, Mars, and Sanctum. Okay, so Mars and Sanctum, we went ahead and had 2 sets to the 1 for Star Alliance and Saurian. But look at this, Brobnar being in all 3, and it's underneath it. It shows just how many tools Star Alliance and Saurian has, and the versatility that they're offering to the decks in Worlds Collide.
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me, Saurian's mechanic of the capture and use should have been Sanctum's mechanic. 110%. Capture and use. That bumps them up much higher. You could have figured out a different mechanic, but I mean, that's basically the Saurian's MO, right? Capture and use.
Yep, Butt Flex should have been like Golden Halo, and Scudum should have been, Amber Shield or something.
I mean, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I mean, the fact of the matter is,
I mean, I hear why we want to see that, as a Monday morning quarterback, but the end result is, if you look at theme, Sanctum is very much about being of honor. And so I can't see them going ahead and being a politician like Saurian and using that amber. I see them as giving it back. And that's, I think they've tried to hold true to that, but it is really holding back Sanctum. There's no question about it.
What? How do you explain Doorstep to Heaven?
Oh, it goes to the common supply. Goes to the common people.
It goes to the common supply. It's everyone. So I hurt myself too. We're all going down.
Nope, don't like it.
I mean, Mars has had, a few of my best decks have Mars in them, but they have very super specific Mars houses. In fact, one of the top decks I love playing has both Brobnar and Mars, but again, super specific things. I don't know if my deck, if Bear Blossom is as good if it doesn't have the Rock Hurling Giant, because that just allows me to dump cards to get rid of creatures at will that I need to get rid of sometimes, But number 2 overall, Dis with 44, and Shadows with 43. So not really much changing there in the shakeup of the breakdown of houses, and rounding out top 5 would be Untamed, and then Star Alliance is actually in that top 5 as well. Again, Star Alliance allowing you kind of that Logos light, allowing you to kind of play around with the other houses. They all kind of work well together. And then Untamed, just burst and use it. And then Shadows, I don't think we really... I'm going to guess Shadows is mainly Coda based, if I had to yonder a guess.
See, what I still want to put out, though, is we're really looking at Star Alliance and Saurian as one set. So if you take Logos, Dis, Shadows, Untamed, which is really playing in all 3 sets, if you take those numbers, 53, we should be able to divide by your 3 sets. You're essentially taking the 43 from Shadows, and they're representing about 11. So Saurian and Star Alliance, for the one set they're in, is actually coming out a lot higher than I think this table is even showing. So I'm curious going forward how this house breakdown is going to change, if it's going to change. But I definitely think Star Alliance and Saurian is going to continue to take a bump. But we'll see how Mass Mutations plays out for that.
Well, you guys have played, and we'll kind of wrap this up here with the play time of the Mass Mutations deck. We did the daily here at AC, as we did one whole tournament of just the Mass Mutation decks on TCO. And you guys have played some of the Mass Mutation. Tell me what you guys thought about them right off the bat.
Capture is still bad.
Yeah, that was the honest truth, is that I liked some of the Zealots as they were coming out. I actually saw some of the enhanced cards as playing very nicely, but the matchup was not favorable because I was playing Sanctum, and Sanctum just is Capture, and that is stored Amber. Yeah. And as soon as Dan wanted to go ahead and take that Amber back, he could. There's just too many ways to be able to do it. And for Amber control, that's a problem.
I felt much better playing my double card Dinosaur than we talk a lot of trash, but that card was super powerful coming down, capturing Amber and killing a creature. Those are 2 good solo cards. You got to put them together, but when it comes down, it's pretty serious.
See, that's interesting, Dan, because thinking back to what we had, you had talked about Ortanu as being a better 3-card play. And I really think the ability to cycle with Ortanu is a much better piece than our new dinosaurs with the search card and the 2 cards that were there. I felt that there's too many cards that eliminate a creature, especially high-powered creatures. And for what it did in the game, it really didn't impact me. It slowed me down a little bit, but I had an answer right away.
I held it for 3 or 4 turns in my hand because it didn't matter. I was winning with board already. So, right. In that game, he didn't even need to make that big of an impact.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right off the bat, I was playing with Rickster, and I think we had the mirror match. We were both playing the same deck, and we both played down, what is it, Desolosaurus? That's his name? And
double dino.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yes.
double dino. There's a card in Logos that just kills him right off the bat. I forget what it is. A mimic drone or something like that. You purge the creature.
And you get his power.
Power and armor. And sure enough, I'm like, oh man, because like opening hand, I have like, all right, it was a little bit in, but you know, I've got half of them plus the go find card. I'm like, I'm gonna go find him. Let's play this guy, and I play him out there, and sure enough, he plays the drone or whatever it was, and well, there goes Deslosaurus. He's out for the rest of the game. Yeah, about that.
Yeah, giving up a 20 power creature isn't spectacular there, but you still, in theory, got to keep him off a key for a turn, and
3 cards to keep him off a key for a turn. It's still just, I don't see any of these double creatures doing anything to shake this game up. I mean, I can keep you off a key for a turn with 2 cards, if not more.
Well, with 1 card.
Yeah.
I mean, like, sure, I understand. I'm not saying they're great, but they're going to make some very big impact plays.
I just don't see it. I don't see it. I see it as what they tried to do in Magic, and that was a colossal flop there. And I don't know. I'm having a really, really tough time seeing it.
I just got rolled last night by an Ungus, Stenopius, whatever deck, and those don't even come in big, and I couldn't deal with them. And then they become 27 power creatures, and so there are a lot of decks that can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I
guess the short end is once Mass Mutations comes out, we're going to see.
Yeah.
I think that you might see some interest early on, but I'm curious, what is the impact long term? Are we going to actually see those in decks? Is it going to be a focal point for, Vault Tour or even our Vault Warriors? I don't necessarily see that. I think it's a fun piece, but that's me.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to see them as the point of top tier tournament decks, but you are going to see some of them there, just like you occasionally see or Tanu, or you occasionally see some of these other just bad creatures that exist in this game because the rest of the cards are good enough.
Yeah.
You will see him, but no, he's not. I don't see people being like, he's not going to be the reason the deck is top tier.
He'll be a part of it, but not the reasoning. Is that what you're saying? Okay. I can see it. I'm skeptical on him. I just am. I guess we'll have to wait till July.
Yeah, July, that's it.
And then if we can...
end of May, and we're going to be...
I was going to say, if we can convince Taiwan, which is the new target, to get them in by the end of May. Maybe we'll just have another target pre-release. Who knows?
Well, I mean, hopefully the Chinese and the Taiwan decks sell a bunch, they all get scanned, and then we're just going to be able to play sealed with them through the tools we have.
Yeah, that's not a bad... it's not a bad idea either. I'm down. So, guys, don't forget this weekend we're going to be wrapping up Shadow Worlds. I will be streaming over on my Twitch channel, so you can find us there. I think we're going to be... I don't know where we're going to be streamed or what exactly actually is going on.
I think we're the round 1 featured table because we're playing the number 1 seed.
I don't know how they're doing that, though. I think it's on a delay or of some sort.
Yes, you are correct. Because Justice Blinded's account has hand access, he can see hands. His broadcast will be on delay, so that way it cannot impact the results of the game.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for us this week. Kind of a shorter episode, but JR, you got anything you want to go over before we kind of scoot out of here?
No, I just wanted to go ahead and reach out to everyone who participated in Shadow Worlds or put something together so that we could participate. It was a blast. I appreciated being able to play against you. I had extensive notes, but to be honest, thank you. Just thank you for a great weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. I look forward to the games against Da Vinci and wish them luck. Not too much luck, though.
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, Shadow Worlds was great. There's so many online tournaments going. Come play in the quarantine dailies we have going on here at Archon's Corner.
They're a lot of fun, guys. They really, honestly, they're a blast.
Yep, or go play in Lady Aurora's low SAS tournaments, or there's Tesla tournaments every other week. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Get out there and play more Keyforge.
Yeah, and in this time, I also kind of want to say, you guys touched on everything I wanted to say, but when you can, help your local game store. Right now is just, it's a tough time in our state, especially. We, as far as I understood, I've talked to a few different people in the gaming community, and unfortunately, that CARES money did not reach them. So try to do what you can to help them out. These are the people that are running the tournaments for you, that are making sure you get what you need, Keyforge wise. So make sure, if you can, cut them a break. I'm trying to do that, and I know everybody else is trying their best, but see what you guys can do. But until next week, guys, we'll see you guys all later. Bye-bye.